Welcome back to Your Choice TC&A's weekly newsletter. We are happy to be here with you this month, and we are going to be talking about next level connection, communication, and community throughout the summer. And June, we are starting with connection. And as you know, connection is super important to us. It's important in our relationships personally. It's important in our business relationships, and we know that we need it as humans, right?
We do, absolutely.
And so we just thought we'd lead with a simple definition of connection. And connection means to link together or fit together. And so often, when we're thinking about connection, there is a starting place for that connection. And so, Tess, can you tell us a little bit about within the leadership coaching process, and people are coming to you, to us to be coached, and we're talking about connection, we're coaching on connection. What's usually the starting place for people when they're thinking about connection?
Well, most of the time, the starting place is externally. How can others help me feel that I'm connected to the group or to the conversation or to the team? It's always externally how others are making people feel. And we talk about it's not about others, it's about how you internally connect to yourself. Now, I know a little bit about this because as an adopted child, I really struggled with feeling connected. And it was a lifelong journey to understand that. But internally, I knew that I had something within me that was so different from my own family system. I had likes, I had dislikes, I had things that I really enjoyed that was very different from my family system. Now, people may say, well, Tess, that's typical in a family system. Someone's always going to feel different. But I realized as I got older that I really needed to internally connect to myself. What did I really like? What was my voice? What kind of voice did I want to have? How did I want to express myself? How did I want to communicate and build strong relationships? And that took me on a very long journey of understanding what that is for myself. And what I found is that as I internally connected to the core of who I am, my character, no one can take away my character. I can certainly do whatever I need to do with my character as I value who I am as an individual. No one can really give me value, not even some of the most wonderful experiences I've had. I have to give myself the value. I value what I have experienced, and at the same time, I value the inner work within me to even receive those amazing experiences. And also, just this ultimate understanding of valuing the reality of who I am. When I'm leading myself with my character and I'm leading myself with value, the realities of what I experience tend to be very positive. And when there are challenges, I always say, okay, I'm on a new learning curve. And we coach that all the time. And I had an opportunity to even utilize this strategy with an individual as I was coaching them this past week. They came to me, they were flustered. Their energy was very frazzled, frustrated. And as this person began to talk about what was going on, there really was a very complicated situation. And yet, throughout the morning, this person was sending off all kinds of negative energy and emails in the office because they they couldn't solve the problem fast enough, and ultimately they couldn't solve it alone. They needed a collaboration of others to be involved. And as we talked and realizing that her internal dialogue went externally to the problem, and she had to come back to internally to really just decompress, understand that she could manage her energy in a more positive way. It wasn't going to, negative energy was not going to solve the situation any quicker. And as she did that, I could see her whole demeanor start to change, her energy. She even started to laugh and really think about how silly is this? I don't really need to give this all this negative energy. She went back to the core internally of who she is and who she wanted to be, not just in her role and responsibility, but for her team. And so I think that was one of the greatest experiences this week to share, because everything, when we can pause and say it starts internally with me first, then all of the external starts to, we align with ourselves, the external starts to align, and we can see things from a different vantage point and even problem solve from a different frame of mind. So what are your thoughts on that? What are you hearing me saying?
Well, I think what's standing out the most is the empowerment that we all have and the ability that we all have to really the opportunity we all have to connect with ourselves. And yes, we also all have the ability, but not everybody chooses to tap into their own internal connection in order to experience the external that they want. They seek externally, and things do still go well for those people. And so I think sometimes it can be confusing. I know I've been on that journey of like, okay, well, I'm spending all of this time internally connecting, and then you see other people that you know are not doing that, and they're still having good outcomes,
Mhm.
right? But what I always come back to is that everything is always more sustainable and more powerful and more meaningful to me when I connect with my own self.
Yes.
And so it's just that reminder to not be looking at what everybody else is doing and what all
Mhm.
of the other external things are, and coming back to my own core of who I am. And we all have that opportunity. We
Yes.
all can tap into that at any time, even when we're in the midst of things that are stressful, even when
Yes.
we're in the most complex, challenging experiences, because there's no one listening to this and there's no one here on earth right now that isn't going through something challenging.
Mhm.
Right? It
Mhm.
might not be at the height of it right now, and yet as humans we all go through these experiences. I think that's something collectively that we can relate to one another on. And so
Yes.
the more that we can spread this message that connecting to your own internal self is actually what's going to feel more empowering, give you more confidence, and give you the more sustainable energy that we're all looking for. That to me is part of why we're here.
I'm in such full alignment with you there. And what's interesting with that, when I'm truly connected internally to me, the connections that are available are far more trustworthy,
Yeah.
far more meaningful, and those relationships tend to expand.
Yes.
Typically, when there's external focus, those relationships are not long lasting. At least they haven't been for my life. And for some, that's been great that they haven't been long lasting.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's really important to do the internal work first and stay true to who we are so we attract the external people and connections that are truly meant for us.
Absolutely. We have the quote in the newsletter for this month. There is no limit to connecting with others when you connect to yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yes, I love that.
I think that just reflects what you were saying about the when we take the time to have the internal connection, then everything that we do experience externally, relationships, experiences, are
Mhm.
far richer,
Yeah.
and just overall like better feeling. I think of the
Yeah.
trust there. I think you used the word trust, and for me, I'm like, it just feels better. And part of that is because there's trust there.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So for this month, we're encouraging our readers and you watching this, listening to this, to really keep track, keep a record this month of how you're connecting to yourself. We're talking about next level connection. And so we just encourage you that whether you're writing it down in a notebook or making a note in your phone, yes, Tess has a million different books. Um, so of course I do too, 'cause she also likes to gift them. And
Yes.
and we are always reflecting because that's part of who we are. That's part of what makes us great coaches as well. And so we're encouraging you to keep a record of what's working well for you and what could be going better as you connect to yourself. And we know this to be true from our own experience and from our experience with our clients. When you take the time and you raise your self awareness to connect with your own self first, your consciousness level actually increases. And with that, everything in life expands.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
So we're going to be keeping track. We're going to be talking on our Monday morning meetings about this connection, and we'd love to hear from you too. So don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how you're doing with your internal connection. And we look forward to connecting with you over the summer.